Hey, Voodoo Power listeners. Before we start the show, let me tell you about Strength Coach Pro. Strength Coach Pro is the ultimate coaching companion for passionate strength coaches. Strength Coach Pro is a powerful platform allowing coaches to sequence programs for an entire year, ensuring athletes stay on track. It features a simple drag and drop design for program building. It's easy and efficient, allowing for customized workouts. Another great feature of Strength Coach Pro is the real-time leaderboard feedback. Athletes love competition, creating a fun, engaged, and motivated environment where they can thrive. Strength Coach Pro is trusted by coaches at all levels, from professional to D1, high school, and professional trainers looking for an easy way to streamline programming needs. Whether working with 10 clients or 1,000 athletes, there are no limits to the support of this program. In addition, there's a 14-day trial for coaches where they can explore the platform for themselves. At just $50 a month or $500 a year, the value is unbeatable. Please don't miss your opportunity. Coaches can reach out to Strength Coach Pro for a demo today. Let them work to save you time and elevate your coaching. Now on to the podcast.
Welcome to the Voodoo Power Podcast.
Welcome to Plates and Pancakes. We're sitting down today with Matt Cates. Coach Cates has served as a strength conditioning coach at Penn High School for 10 years. Cates has been a high school strength coach for 18 and currently serves on the NHSSCA Indiana Advisory Board. Prior to Penn, Coach Cates spent time at Portage High School, Michigan City High School, and Martinsville High School. He was named the 2023 Great Lakes Region NHSSCA Strength Coach of the Year and the 2024 NHSSCA Strength Coach of the Year. Cates has a bachelor's degree in K-12 Health and Physical Education from Manchester University and is USAW, HSSCS, and SSC certified. So welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I have watched these podcasts in the past. You've always had great guests on, so I'm honored to be part of this.
Well, we were talking pretty good off air, maybe even a little accidentally off air, because as much as I do these, every once in a while I do screw up. But we were down a great rabbit hole, a really good Boyd Epley rabbit hole. And you've taken the Husker Power ideas to a new generation, and I've heard you touch on this in other podcasts, but you have the have-tos, the want-tos, and the can't-tos.
So the Boyd Epley thing started when I was in college. Not Boyd Epley thing, but my personal journey with finding out who he was. But so I went to Manchester University, and I was always a weight room guy. I mean, that's obviously being a strength coach. I have always had a passion for the weight room and what it did for me as an athlete, and what it can do for confidence, especially the younger athletes at the high school level. But so I had an injury later in my career that prevented me from having my senior year. But our defense coordinator, Coach Plans, who was also our strength coach at Manchester, kind of pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, listen, I know it's going to be whatever, not going to play. Obviously, I'm still going to be around, but can you help out with the off-season workouts?" I said, "Absolutely. I love it, being a leader in the weight room, just being around my teammates still in any role that I can have." So like every Sunday, we would always meet up, and he had the strength disc, the Husker Power strength disc that you bought, and you kind of downloaded it, and you put all the team roster in there, and then you put their maxes in there, and then the percentages based on, the different phases, the base phase, the power phase, strength phase, and all that stuff. And we printed them off, and we would just meet. And so I started developing these different, my own philosophies based on Coach Epley, and also too finding out, even more about him and how he was a legend and started the whole strength and conditioning thing at the college level. But beside, and I was talking about this, like Boyd Epley, Kevin Vanderbush, two absolute godfathers of the strength and conditioning industry at the high school level and the college level. And I still have Coach Epley's Husker Power books in my office, even the ones like the manuals for like every single sport. And it's hilarious too, even back then, where you look at the different manuals and there's some things that are different, but it's still a unified approach to strength and conditioning, which is very similar, which is exactly like what Coach Vanderbush, who is a huge mentor and role model for me, taught us and taught Indiana and high school training that, not basic, but just fundamental, compound, strong movements, but done correctly and progressed properly is what the high school athlete needs, not this sport, not that sport. And I always joke around about this is you'll have these, you'll have 14, 15, 16-year-old kids that are just anterior tilted or they can't land properly, but they they need a specialized program that focuses only on this. Where it's like, listen, you need to focus on fundamental movements, strength training, jumps, hops, deceleration, landing, all those different things. And it carries over for every single athlete at our level, at the high school level. And then you could do some tweaks and some ads and some different things like that, but you can't overcomplicate it. And so those two similarities there have always stuck with me, but also too the can't do, have to, and want to, and I adapted the terms. And there's a chapter in one of his books that talks about where he started that process from, and before they went on their runs, before they were just in the killing it, he started labeling the team in a pie graph, and it's in the book, and it was jerks, have tos, and want tos. And obviously, when they're losing, they're trying to get better. The graph skews towards the jerks and the have tos. And so he's talking about what signify an athlete to have that. And basically, like the jerks, which I call can't do's. So I'll just say the can't do's are athletes that they just can't do anything. They can't lift. They can't show up on time. They can't show up to practice. They can't show up in the off season. They can't be good leaders. They can't be good locker room, police or whatever the case is. And it's just, they just can't do anything. And you won't win because you can't, right? Then the next one is the have to, and they have to be there. And that's a general proportion of your high school athlete. They're there to wear the jersey. They're there because their friends are doing it. They're there because their parents are really, involved. And they're not bad kids. They're not at all. You can win games with that. But again, how do you get to the next level? How do you win championships? And that's the want to mentality. And so they want to be the best version of themselves, but also at the same time, which is just as, if not more important, they want to make their teammates and their team better. And that's the want to athlete. And because again, have to is they can want to get better themselves. But the key, especially at our level of high school student athletes, is can I make my teammates better? Can I make my team better? And how do I do that? And I started this at Michigan City, and I'm wearing one right now. But it's a want to band, and they change colors and designs every year. So a high school athlete can have 4 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and have a different band each year. But when they're doing this consistently, being on time, dressed appropriately, pushing their teammates, getting after in the weight room, in my world, right? Showing up to the extra stuff. That's the want. Then they get a want to band. And it's very simple for me, for a coach to say, hey, how's this athlete doing? Or what's their mindset? And it's like, listen, this is where I would peg them. Can't do, have to, want to. Instead of going down a whole long list of here's the reasons why, it's just this is why, and this is what I see. And so it kind of simplifies my teaching philosophy and educating our athletes on what our culture needs to be and what should be. And I think that too is why, just like in any sport, there's how many times does a team go 750,000-0 in school history? It doesn't happen, right? And so how do schools that are smaller in size, maybe don't have the athletes how do they win? Or schools have our size, how do they beat us? And I think it goes back to that culture of buying into the offseason, the culture of buying it as a team, that want to mentality of I want to just go get after it as a teammate, as an individual, as a teammate, and as a leader to make sure my teammates are put in the best position. And what can I do to help them win? And be an energy giver. And that to me, especially in the high school level, is huge. It's not just having a bunch of individuals, not just having, a bunch of 300-pound benchers. It's how can they come together to give back to the team? Because like we were just talking, anybody can be an energy taker. You were talking about being an energy vampire, just sucking the life out of the room in the locker room. That's easy. It's also easy to lay on the couch, and it's also easy to lose, right? So that's the easiest thing to do in the world, is just tap out, make excuses, blame everybody else, and have a can't-do mentality, and the repercussions of that are going to be very simple. You're going to lose, and not just in games, but in life in general. And so it's hard to get out of bed and be consistent. It's hard to be a leader. It's hard to be positive. It's hard to have belief. It is, but the reward is outstanding. And so at the end of the day, it's worth it to go and do the hard things consistently, because at some point something's going to give, and that is going to be well worth it.
I think everyone can agree the want tos are pretty easy. They show up and they look for the work and they do the work.
Yeah.
You've coached a lot of kids. You have some big rooms. You've been at some big schools. How do you, or is it even possible to break through to the can't do's or the kid that, hey, coach, what am I doing wrong here? And you're like, okay, you're doing this. And he says, yeah, but I think it's this. There's an excuse for everything. How do you break that cycle?
Consistency. It's mind numbing, the consistency that, and I'm not anybody. I'm just saying it's mind numbing, the consistency that we have as a program. I have like 9 or 10 co-coaches that are with me throughout the day separately, maybe 3 or 4 in every class and then before school. And they do a great job of keeping that framework in place, but we're consistent with our time. We're consistent with our dress. We're consistent with our attitude. We're consistent with where you need to be. We're consistent with not sitting in the weight room. We're consistent with you're not stepping foot in our weight room. And hey, dudes, we're consistent with our accountability, not our rules. And that's what we teach our kids. These are not rules. This is our life. This is what we are. This is our philosophy. This is the Penn Strength program. This is what Coach Cates believes in. It's a way of life, right? So I'm not saying that's the answer, but our mind-numbing consistency and what our expectations are, and they could be high and some schools could have higher. But the kids will have to buy in or they can't be a part of it. And when they buy in and they start having that own consistency of every day showing up and doing this and so on and so forth, that's when it starts to evolve and change. And again, I could be intense and I could yell and I do, and there's nothing, I don't, it is what it is. But it's never, ever to point you out as being a failure. It's because you can do better and you can. And if you want to be in here and you want to be in a weight room, it's because you want to get better. It's not to sit down because you're not allowed. It's not just to breathe air. There's plenty of people in air breathers out there. It's because you want to do work to get better. So it might be a slower process, but it's mind-numbing consistency at our coaching level and within our expectations to demand that, to make sure that everybody follows suit. And I'm going to use Elijah Coker as an example. I always joke around that I'm going to write his autobiography. This kid just graduated last year. He's now playing football at Indiana State. He's 6'5" and he looks like a chisel. He is insane. But here's the thing. His freshman year basically was below a can't do. And he knows this. And I've used this as an example. Not to sugarcoat it, and I'm using his name because of where he's at today. If he didn't change the book, I wouldn't even be talking about him. He wouldn't be remembered. There's a sign when you walk out of our weight room above on the bulkhead that says, how do you want to, in capital letters, want to be remembered? Every day kids walk out of our weight room, that sign is above. Some see it, some don't, but it's every single day a visual representation of what's your legacy going to be. And this kid went from a can't do in the weight room, a can't do in education, and a can't do in sports to just flipping a switch, buying in, believing, getting after it, knowing that he's got to do better. That mind-numbing consistency that we had, I'm not saying that's what did anything, but he was around it. He had to adapt. If he wanted to do this, he had to follow suit. So now I'm talking about a guy who is sophomore, junior, senior year, I would give my credit card to. So now you go from a can't do to what I joke around with as a senior's credit card kid. I'll give you my wallet and I trust you that nothing's going to happen. He became a state champ in the long jump. He was on our 4x1 team that set the school record, sectional record, regional record, and ran the 5th fastest time in state history, 41.11. He won. He was a conference MVP. He won 4 events, all at state standard at the conference meet. He's the long jump school record, I believe the 200-meter school record, and he got to play. He's playing Division I college football as a wide receiver. This guy is an inspirational story to anybody and everybody because he had 2 choices to make. Go with the mind-numbing consistency and see what happens, or quit, because there's no other option. And he did. And he is a self-made human being, and I am extremely proud of him. I text him to this day, just saw him back from college. He's looking huge and great, and that is one of the and there's others, trust me, because you were saying, schools and all that. There's plenty of other ones, but that is the most recent one of a kid that literally no one would know his name, and now he's every record book in the school at the state level, and now he's playing Division I college sport and getting a college education, And I couldn't be more proud of any kid in my entire life.
Now I want to fall back. You pointed out your wristband, and we did shirts, and we did shirts way back in the beginning when there was just a couple of us here, and I had no clue how much that would mean when you earned this shirt and you earned that shirt, and hey, what's the next shirt? And so setting that up, when you set that up, did you realize how big of a piece of the puzzle that was going to be?
No. And I want to go off on a tangent here with that, because when I started this and I saw the change of kids adapting, changing, like when I first started doing this, like at Michigan City, to get a band and how important it was for them to do that. And even at like Martinsville, where I've had kids tear up. Now, again, has nothing to do with Coach Cates. It's just what I was talking about earlier. Working as hard as you possibly can doesn't always mean you're going to be a state champ. It does not. And we have to teach these kids that. You have to work as hard as you possibly can for an end goal, but it's the process of the day-to-day. It's not worrying about the state championship. You have to focus on the process. And therefore, if the state championship doesn't happen, but you put everything you could into that, but there's other things that could have happened. Maybe it was a conference championship. Maybe you made varsity for the first time ever that you never thought you could. Or maybe you just made the team. But that's like the want-to band was handing that out, and kids getting and making themselves a big deal of it is because it's one of those things that they maybe never saw or had anybody say your leadership is outstanding because they're not the leader, or they may have gotten cut from the team the year before or whatever. But to go along with that, I am big time. We know to win at the ultimate level, there has to be intrinsic motivation. And I always tell kids, when you write goals down, don't write down what I want to see or what I want to read. And do not write down, I want to be a state champ in this. Whatever you write down must be when you're laying in bed and you're sore and that alarm goes off, or you're laying in bed and you got home late or whatever the case is, what can you write down right now as a goal that when it feels like the world's caving in on you, that you can hop out of bed and get up and run through a wall? That's it. That's it. And we know that intrinsic motivation has got to be that to get up out of bed and run through a wall. But at the same time, too, as a coach, you need to find every single avenue of motivation to get kids. Maybe Joe Smith's this, maybe Julie Smith is that. And that's where the extrinsic motivation comes from. So I have the want-to bands. I've got mile power bands. I have truck stick bands. I have right here in my drawer. Let me see if yep. The local frozen yogurt shop, Urban Swirl, has Speed King and Speed Queen tickets for free Urban Swirl frozen yogurt that I hand out to athletes that have the fastest time of the week at our string on Tuesday, Thursday morning. The Indiana National Guard sponsors our lifters of the combine. So we have top 10 lifters of the combine. The 10th one is always based on leadership. That could be an athlete that was helping freshmen or just being great. And they get Indiana National Guard lifters of the combine. The athletic department buys me All-American shirts that on the back say 2-time, 3-time, or Hall of Fame. You don't get one as a freshman. You got to win twice, and then you get a 2-time shirt. If you make it all 4 years, you get HOF Hall of Fame shirt. I've got dog tags right here that I got from the idea from Mark Garrett at Crown Point, who's a legend himself, that says Hall of Gains with Penn strength on it, that if they can do an overhead press challenge with their body weight, strict press for males, and then 100 pounds for female athletes, they get dog tags. Our weight room is sponsored at the Culver's Butterburgers. It's the Culver's Athletic Performance Center, right? With the sign of the Culver's, and then our fitness center upstairs and our rookie weight room upstairs, Culver Performance Center. So Culver's buys our shirts, these Penn strength t-shirts for all of our student athletes, which we had 1,148 in the class this school year. They all get this shirt, has the Culver's logo on the back that says Excellence Our Tradition. It's black because you have to have a black shirt with sleeves when you come into our weight room on a daily basis. So you see my point? Like there's just, and you can say, oh, that's foo-foo. Absolutely not. We know and we must teach and demand intrinsic motivation of what it takes to be that. But at the same time, too, you can add extrinsic motivation. What's the difference between a kid, making a 300-pound clean club and saying, well, it's very similar. These awards or these whatever are not just handed to kids. The Culver shirt is. Everyone gets it when they're part of the program. But everything else is earned. You got to be the fastest. You got to hit a mile per hour. You got to be truck stick for the tanks. You have to be, our All-American standard in the weight room. We have varsity All-State All-American. So, yeah, I go crazy with that stuff and the sponsorship and everything else like that, because, again, I feel that at the end of the day, my job is not just to teach them how to lift weights and lift weights safely. It's to create that culture and that positive experience that if I can get this athlete dialed in with this and this athlete dialed in with that, and they love this and they're this and that, so on and so forth, that I want to do it. And that goes back to that mind-numbing consistency of staying on top of everything to provide the standard expectations, but also the motivation to get after it.
Now, in your system, I picked up a little bit here and there from some articles, and so I don't have it all figured out, so I figured I'd ask you about it. But in the past, you did a full body 3 days a week workout. Is that like a tier system that you run, and are you alternating upper, lower power? What are you doing there?
So it's full body. I see our athletes 2 days a week or 3. We're block scheduled. So it's either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And then each week it switches. So good and bad, right? So like I do extra team lifts too. Friday mornings, the football team does a team lift in the off season before spring ball starts. Once spring ball starts, we stop that because spring ball practice is in the morning. Every Tuesday, Thursday morning, 0 period is our speed training. So we do speed training every Tuesday, Thursday until we're done towards the end of the school year. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday is 0 period lifting for kids that are not in class, or extra lifts for individuals that want extra lifting. They can come in before school. Then the last part is on Mondays and Wednesdays. And this is the benefit of having 2 weight rooms, right? I'm talking a lot about it, a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts, but I have a great staff. And I also have a rookie weight room upstairs, veteran weight room here, and then a fitness center upstairs, off the rookie weight room. We can warm up and do our speed training and everything else like that. Then on Mondays and Wednesdays, we have our futures middle school lifting. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade parents get to drop off their athletes before our school starts. They get to lift with our coaches. And then we have school buses, and this is all free, that take them to their middle schools before we start school. So that's how we run. So the basic components of our program is Monday, Wednesday is a 2-day system where we base everything on movement patterns, and I like to check that we're hitting every single movement pattern. Not like chest, but like vertical press, horizontal press, right? Bilateral squat, single leg squat. I love the Mike Boyle stuff on how he labels everything. Single leg, knee dominant hamstring, hip dominant hamstring, Olympic lifts, all that different stuff. So a tier would have to be in the order most likely of what the tier is. Ours, when they come down, we have a platform and a squat rack. So I call them pods. So we have 20 standalone squat racks in our veteran room and 20 separate standalone platforms. So it's not like the college model. I designed it specifically that everything's off-center, so there's nothing behind them on the platforms. So I can have athletes lifting on the platforms, athletes lifting on the squat racks simultaneously, and then switch. Same concept upstairs for my rookie weight room. It's the exact same layout. So when they graduate to the veteran, they know what's going on. Now their programs are a little different, but upstairs is 14 and 14. So when they come downstairs, like on our day one, it'll be their front squat day. So bilateral front squat day, and then we'll also do our vertical press. Then they have their clean at the platform that day and rows, so horizontal pull. Then we'll also do machine work where as a post lift or pre-lift, where they're doing lat pull down machines for vertical pull, and then we'll do some hamstring slider work there, and then we'll do an explosive medicine ball slam. Now, so all that's geared into the workout. So again, like I said, everything's based on like movement patterns. Our day 2 is now going to be a single leg squat. So we'll do step ups and like Bulgarian split squat. Bench press is that day for a horizontal press. Then at the platforms, our Olympic lift is hang power snatch. And then we do RDL. So we'll do, double leg, barbell RDL. We'll do kickstand RDL. And then we'll even do some snatch grip RDL as well. But I'm going to start simplifying things even more next year. Then on Fridays, I call it our VBT Friday. We'll do maybe a competition that day, but the general work of our Friday is all velocity-based training. So we might do, no, we might not. We'll do back box squat with VBT. And then we can also add accommodating resistance for our off-season athletes. In-season athletes do not do bands, but we'll add bands to the squat, or we'll do bands on the bench and then do VBT on bench, or our in-season athletes will just do BBT without the accommodating resistance. And then when we can, we work in like our trap bar deadlift on that Friday, or a competition, like a trap bar jump or trap bar jump, vertical jump on a plyo mat, see what they can get with 25s on each side, and they jump as high as they can and see what the power is on that. We do a quick dynamic warm up of the entire team before we separate into those lifts. And like just I'll put music on and blow the whistle, pop, 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 go, 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 go. Then they all line up, and then we do like our mobility. I call it our mobility warm up, where we go through, squat mobility, T-spine, rotational, the hip flexors, 90-90s, core, shoulder, on the floor, those types of things. And we do all that, and then we separate, and then we'll go into our pre-lift and then our lift.
Now, I've heard you talk about this before. I had heard you talk about velocity, so I don't know, it may have changed, but the majority of time, are you running percentages, or is everything velocity now?
No, velocity is only on Fridays.
Okay.
I don't even do percentages. I have a custom kind of APR thing that we do. It's called the plus rep system, and I'm always changing it. We stick with fives on our big list. We stick with then we go like 5-3-1, and we switch every phase. On our Olympic list, we go 3-2-1. On our accessory work, we'll do 6-8, usually no more than that. And basically it's like this. So if you're an in-season athlete, their rep scheme is 1 rep. So they just do 1 rep, 1 rep, 1 rep per set. Fast, be strong. But to me, things that are new and things that are volume are performance killers. So we don't want to add any new exercises, and we do not want to kill them with volume. So they have the choice as an athlete to know what their body wants. I don't know what they want. They're high school athletes. I can do readiness tests, but again, we have 80 athletes down here, another 60 upstairs, right? So my thing with percentages is percentages are awesome and everything else like that. But if I don't break it down by in-season, off-season, and possibly even more of an individual athlete, I feel that if we did a general scheme of percentages, especially with our schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, if I have athlete A that is in season and everybody's climbing, say we go 80%, 82%, 84%, 86%, can they keep up with that load and demand, and do they need that amount of visiting, right? The other thing is say athlete A, they're here Monday, they miss Wednesday, they're here Friday, they come back, their Wednesday workout is now Thursday, everybody's now moved up to like 82%, but they didn't lift last week, so actually they went from 78% to 82%. That's not that crazy of a jump. But if you continuously do that over an entire semester, that might be big jumps that they can't sustain, and they plateau or they break down, or they just get weaker, or they're like, oh, nothing's working. So that's why I started thinking about this plus set system and philosophy of the APRE, and progressing on their own with 5-10 pound bumps per week if they want to. Or the other option, there's 3 stimuluses we chase, right? Volume, intensity, and speed. So if we're doing BBT, they have the option then to go up 5-10 pounds if they hit this program correctly, or if they don't feel comfortable going up in weight, they can go up in reps. So that's the plus rep. So if we're in 5s, for example, they'll go 5, 5, third set, money set, they can go 5-9. If they get 9 reps on that set, they can go up 10 pounds the next week. If they get 8, 7, 5-9. So if they get 8, 7, 6, or 5, they can only go up by 5 pounds. Or the third option is this. I got 6 reps. I struggled to get the 6. I am taxed. Coach, what should I do next week? If you don't want to go up by 5 pounds and you want to get 6 good reps, where it's like, I got that 6 and I'm feeling good, I got 7, then beat your reps. When you chase stimuluses, it doesn't mean you're always chasing PRs. It doesn't mean that you're always chasing 15-pound jumps, 20-pound jumps. VBT too, it doesn't have to go from 0.90 to 0.75 of the same weight. It could be any little stimulus to just promote growth and adaptation and to be better than what you're at last week. So those are our 3 rules on that plus set. If there's time and they're an off-season athlete and they want more, then there's the bonus set of 2. The fourth set is a double, which is completely on them and how they feel, and it's adjusted. So if you got 9, it's a 10-pound bump. If you got 8, 7, 6, or 5, same weight, or I'm sorry, 5-pound bump for a double. Or if you barely got, like I said, if you got 6 and you're gassed, don't do a sloppy 2. You know what I mean? Don't go negative. Don't go to failure. We're not going to failure. All right. So that's kind of how we program and we run with that. When we get to triples, so we'll go 3-3, and this is why I've been programming or messing with that plus set. Instead of going like 3 to 7, we did this. We went 1 to 4, so it's 3-3. Then the plus sets its own set of 1 to 4. So if you get 1, you can go up by 5. If you get 2, you can go up by 5. 3, 5. If you get all 4, you can go up by 10. And then you do your bonus set. And I like that because this semester, after each phase of like 5, for example, on bench and squat, we did 1 week of a 5 RM. Work to a top end set for your best of 5, put in the book. Same thing with triples. Work to your top end set of a 3, compete. We put it on the leaderboards, but you're not going. You got to get 3, so you can't be a 1 rep max. Then put it. We log it, and we had great numbers. Like, I never brag about numbers. I think and people, because that's the other question I was getting. Why do you always post numbers? It's not that we don't have 300-pound benchers and 300-pound cleaners or 400-pound front squats. We do. It's not that we have female athletes that can't clean over 150 or bench press over 150 or front squat over 200 pounds. We do. The point of it is it's not my ego to brag about numbers. I'm not in this business to get in arguments, compare with other coaches on who has more of this or more of that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's why I don't do it. But the numbers that our athletes had individually, they were taking their and probably as they should, but their maxes from first semester combine, and now they're doing them for triples on their that 3 round. But also too gives them another opportunity to compete, which is another huge philosophy in our program is the competition on a daily basis of what we do. So that's kind of our general programming in a nutshell. And I'm always evolving that, tweaking that. But we kind of have a system now where the kids understand the components of it. And the beautiful thing to their plus reps, especially in the off season, and they're going for that 5 to 9 or that 1 to 4, the kids will start surrounding them and clapping, and it almost looks like they're maxing out. You know, that feeling of like they're getting after it when all they're really doing is competing to create a stimulus to go up or get better for next week or whatever the case is. And that's that intrinsic competition that we want to push them to have. But you know, that's kind of our programming, like I said. And anybody could argue and say that's basic or that doesn't work or whatever. But again, when we have this many athletes and we can have a system where we're providing stimuluses and they know the rules and the check boxes, and we're simple and progress where we want, and we have the shred mills and we have the mile per, and we focus on the 95% rule, the Charlie Francis 95% rule when we're doing our speed training, our fly-ins, and we track that, and we're tracking all this data, and that's everything.
So in the weight room, you're running a modified 5-3-1 with bonus sets and kind of almost like joker sets, and it's working just like it works for everybody across the country. It's just such a flexible system that you can really adapt.
It is, and like I said, I know that, you know, at the beginning phase, you're increasing the volume and the workload and stuff like that. But I still think too, I'm a big believer in it, being able to do 10 sets of 3 perfect reps over just 3 sets of 10 where it gets sloppy or they get tired or whatever the case is. I think you can still get the right amount of volume by focusing on sets of 5 and working more towards that.
Well, you know, I've listened to Jared Bidney and I've listened to Zach Goodman talk, and I saw the same things here with that brief maximal tension. It just something about that 5 rep and under mark really creates strong athletes. And I know if you're chasing size, you can go after more hypertrophy work, but the strength really comes in that 5 rep range.
Right. And I think that's ample, especially for high school kids, because again, not everywhere, but when this volume of athletes, if you're not really watching them and they're trying to go, and this is why I'm saying I run into this with our plus set system where I've decreased it or I change it. You know, once you start getting above like 8-10 reps, their technique starts getting a little sloppy.
Yeah, and then that's when the injuries happen. You know, I mean, I understand some people don't want to one rep max, but to me, the risk is the same on a one rep max as it is on a really heavy 3 if it's sloppy.
Correct. And one rep max is, I'm not, I don't try to be smart. I always joke around that the two smartest strength coaches I know are both named Adam Lane and Adam Vogel. I was speaking at a conference this spring, and Adam Lane was there, and I was talking about, I brought it up, and I said, if I ever have a son, I'm naming him Adam, because there's something about the name Adam that just makes you intelligent. But one rep max is like with the 5-3, like how we do like 5 weeks for like 5 reps for 5 weeks, and then triple for like 4 weeks, then singles. If you build it in like that, and you teach them like the 5 rep max, 3 rep max after each phase, but you teach them that they're doing heavy singles and they're progressing, there's nothing wrong with the one rep. In fact, it can be very safe. The problem with max is when you got, the clean where they're leaning back or putting their, and they're standing up and then they put it on YouTube and then it gets vilified, or where you just roll the dice. You know what I mean? Like, today I'm going to max out, or today I'm going to walk in the weight room and my combine one rep max was 125, but I feel like putting 200 pounds on the bar because I had Wheaties today. That is ignorant. That's when it gets vilified, and it rightfully should. But when you teach the kids to progress properly, even though I may slow cook them too much, maybe the 5 to 10 pound thing and the rep or the VBT is too little. But when we go to the combine, we're prepared. And again, you're not training for the combine, right? You're training for progressions to get stronger, to get faster, to be explosive, but also to build your armor, to keep lifting in season and in your off season and everything else like that. And then again, the cherry on top of the sundae is the combine, to see their hard work paid off, just like to see their hard work in practice paid off by winning a game. But when you do it correctly and it's part of the program, and it's not just we're maxing out, that's one of the biggest educational things I have with coaches. And I am lucky now that our coaches are awesome. And I coach sprints, and I'm also an assistant football coach. And so I always start, when we talk about the combine up, I coach sprinters here at Penn. I am a spring sport coach. I'm not just the strength coach. When we do combine, we are doing single reps. We are focusing on a jump and a lift, possibly even one lift, big lift that day. And then you get it's like tapering, right? And the volume's down, the intensity's high, the speed's up, the explosives up. This is exactly where I want to be as a sports coach for my in-season athletes. Because again, there's nothing new. You've been doing this since September. There's no volume. It's intense. It's you have coaches watch your technique to make sure your technique is proper and you're not doing something stupid, right? So maxing out or one rep maxes or testing or combine testing or PRs, some people vilify it, but it's depending on how you run your program, and I'm very confident how we do ours here. It can be a very good thing for in-season and off-season, as long as, like I said, you're not rolling the dice. You're not saying, today I feel superhuman because I had a protein shake for the first time and I want to bench press 300 pounds, or you're doing it without spotters. Like, we won't watch a lift if there's not 3 spotters on squats. We won't watch a lift if there's not a spotter, maybe even side spotters on a bench, but usually the spotter. We won't watch an Olympic lift if there's not a clear platform, if kids aren't paying attention. You know what I mean? So it's just different things like that.
How did you land on the 3-2-1 for your Ollie lifts? What drove that as opposed to staying with a 5-3-1?
Watching our technique. I thought our technique started getting sloppy on the 5s, and with our plus reps. Now, when we do our GP, when we do our first couple of weeks, and we're at like, and I say slow cook, but when we're doing complexes and we're doing 60%, building up to our 65%, because our first week is essentially a 65% start of their max, and then I let them go. Then the plus rep dictates where you go, which avenue you go. That's individualization of the whole program anyways, right? But I just thought our technique was getting sloppy, and I like, instead of doing 3 sets of 3 or 3 sets of 5, I like watching them do 4 sets of 3. And that's kind of where it evolved from. And it's ever changing, and it's always going to be ever changing. Just like not every kid does a front squat. So the other part of the program is a team builder. There's the tags situation. So our athletes have the autonomy to choose based on how they feel. And especially at the high school level, that helps with a lot of problems. And here's my point. You have an overhead athlete that says barbell bench is bad for them. It's not, but their parent or their personal hitting coach or whatever, or it just doesn't feel right. Okay, great. So you have the option because again, movement patterns. So when you come in our weight room, when you go to bench press station, it'll say horizontal press. They click it, barbell bench or single arm dumbbell bench. So they get to choose. Now, we're still hitting the movement pattern I want. You could argue bilateral versus unilateral, so on and so forth, but they're still lifting, right? They're not just standing there going, I can't bench. They're still lifting. Same thing with front squat. They click a button, comes down, they get to choose front squat, barbell split squat, and I know some people would say that's unilateral, but feet are placed, or dumbbell goblet squat. So those are their three choices. Cleans. Clean. So clean as a clean. You clean from the floor. Hang clean. So it's a hang position. Or high pull. They have a wrist injury. They can't flip the bar, or they have a back issue, or they're not flexible enough to come from the floor. So they go hang. What do you feel comfortable doing? Snatches. We don't test on a snatch. We add it as part of our exercise, our workout, but hang power snatch, hang high pull, or landmine single arm snatch. All right. So they have the choices to pick out of that on how they feel and what they want to do. So they have some autonomy on what their workout looks like.
I would imagine that goes a long ways with some of them. Some of
Yes.
them want that control. Others want to be told exactly, what do you want me to do, coach? And those a lot of times are pretty easy, but then you always have the kid that wants something different or.
Well, and here's the thing. Go ahead. What percentage do you think 99% still do barbell bench, front squat, and everything else? I do not believe for a second that our athletes opt out of those because they're being lazy. I think the ones that I watch do the dumbbell bench or do the split squat is because that's what they feel, and they're great about it. And when they do barbell split squat, they don't do the plus rep thing, but they are progressing and tracking their data, and they do a great job of it. And I don't think, when we first did it, maybe some of them might have opted out because they thought it was easier while everyone else is getting after it. And then the combine comes across, and when we do the combine, we're not testing dumbbell bench. But again, it goes back to why do we have this program? Culture and to become better athletes, not better lifters. Being a better lifter is going to help you be a better athlete. And if that means dumbbell bench is what you need, then do it. I have no problem with that.
And I'm coming around to that probably a lot better than when I was younger. So we've got a kid out here. He's a pretty good javelin thrower. I believe districts was last weekend. So he's like, hey, do you want me to run at this speed? I think 8.85 on a box squat, 0.85 meters per second. I'm like, man, I'd really like to get you down a little lower than that. I'd like to be a little bit slower. And he's like, well, if you remember, I did this before the KU relays and I threw this.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can sit here and argue with this kid, but he pretty well knows what he wants. He knows what he needs. And then if it doesn't go my way, then he's not going to listen to me more. So I'm like, okay, run it at 0.85. We might get you down around 0.8. Goes the next day, pops off a 4-foot PR. It's just like, I've learned to be a little more flexible because once those kids are in a system long enough, they actually do kind of know what they need.
100%. 100%.
Now, to go back to the box squat, the AR, the velocity, on that Friday, what speeds are you trying to hit?
So very general. We're usually like at the 0.9, like what you just said. We're 0.85, 0.95. And then when I first intro to them, we'll be a little bit faster than that, like 0.9 to 1.00. Every 2 weeks that we do this, we'll ramp it down. The problem, like we'll lower the speeds. The problem is like, for example, I see them every other Friday. So I don't want to make too big of jumps and I don't want to overcomplicate it. The second thing is so the point of the 2 week jump is 1 week, if I'm at 0.9, they're working at weight. The next week, I want to do the same weight, but I want to try to beat that time, and then we can go up. And very simple like that. But so move the same weight faster, and then we'll drop that speed down.
Okay, wait, hold on there, because I think we do something very similar. So you're dropping that speed down by either adding AR or adding weight to get that speed back down where you want it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then the problem, though, is like this spring, we had a school cancellation for the first time in my teaching career because of the storm. And it's just because it knocked over too many trees and blew out so much power that we couldn't, two of our schools were out. So they just canceled school. And here's my point is we had spring break then, we had Good Friday, we had that day. So my gold classes literally went almost a month without having any Friday left because of the rotation. So it's like Tuesday, Thursday, then it was school cancellation. So we adapted because we had to do our day one, our day two, because that's the money of the program. So like we probably did day one on Wednesday, day two on Friday. Then they went back to Tuesday, Thursday. Then it was spring break. Then we come back and it's like an entire, and they haven't done any Friday lifts. So that's the hard thing of putting not energy, because that sounds lazy, but a lot of stock in that and over designing that, because I want it to be simple enough that when they come in, I don't have to explain like a half hour long of what we're looking for on this. But like I said, we keep the ranges. Like we'll start like 0.9 to 1. Here, the weight that they have to do. Second week that they'll be the same ranges, but the weight, we're going to do the weight and move it faster, or they can increase the weight and then hit the same speed. But we won't adjust it until that second week.
On this 0.85, 0.9, 0.8 that you're looking at, are you looking at comparatively to body weight? Because I think you reach a certain point if you got a kid that's 180 and he's moving 100 pounds at 0.85, you're not really moving the needle that much. You could actually jump them and get probably a better stimulus. Are you kind of watching what the weight is on the bar coefficiently?
So all of our maxes are done through coefficients. This is nothing, but that is a big part of what I see compared to just an absolute number. Great question. I do not have an answer for that, and I'm not going to act like I do with BBT. Our main lifts, I do, because we do everything run on coefficients for our clubs. But with BBT, I do not, because honestly, this is the first year we've done BBT. So we got Bitroof boxes that we use because the kids can read it on there. And with the Shred Mills, I was able to get iPads because we don't have iPads. We're a one-to-one Chromebook school that the kids use for their workouts. So I have iPads on just a few squat racks that the kids can see visually. So like I said, we kept it as simple as possible. But as we start progressing and tracking more, those will definitely be things that I would reach out to you and see how you do that. And I would learn even more about it because right now we're in the beginning phases of this, and I'm more watching. Are they hitting the speeds? What are they? Is their weights going up to still hit that speed with proper technique? Because that was one of my biggest worries about BBT is if I load them too much, not too much, but if we keep loading, do they stop worrying about their technique and worry more about speed? And so far, by keeping the speed lighter, or not light, the weights lighter, we haven't had that issue. But that was one of my worries as I started going down the whole VBT rabbit hole and where we're going to end up with this.
With AR, where are you adding that in? Once you attain a certain speed, or do you have certain cycles that you use AR? How do you
like that? AR is the auto regulation?
Oh, accommodating resistance.
Accommodating resistance, yeah. It's all about speed. If they can hit the speed I want at that weight with good technique, they can go up. And we keep it. If they do not hit the weight, they got to drop it down. Or up the speed, they have to drop it down. So, like I said, we keep it very elementary. If you each set, and I allow them to build up. So I give them a weight to start, like warm-up sets, and then from there, a starting weight. If they hit it at that speed, and we keep the reps no more than 3 on this, even like squat bench, it'll be like six sets of 3. They can build up. As long as they're hitting the speed on each individual rep, they can add 5 to 10 pounds. If not, they get cut off. And then the following week, they're going to try to beat those sets again by maintaining that speed. So if it's like 135 and I got my and then I did 145, then 155, and then 155 is what I could do. So I did 155, 155, 155. My next week is same speed because it'll be 2-week cycle or whatever. And then all they're trying to do now is can I build up from 135, 145, 155, but now can I get above the 155? So my challenge is, can I get 160 or 165 for faster or at the same speed? And then there you go. I beat what I did last week. There's my stimulus without having to go up high in weight or go crazy with calculations or anything else like that. So like I said, very elementary, and I'll get better at it. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, but I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible so we can have a progression and for something for them to work at.
Now you mentioned it in there, and I've thought a lot about this, but how is your conditioning looking after you've kind of added this in? When you get a kid doing 6 sets of 3 with minimal rest period at 0.9 meters per second, you can't sprint them that hard continuously, but you can get them in the rack and you can build their conditioning that way. Have you seen an increase in their ability through this?
I mean, I don't have an answer for that one either. Now, I will say this overall, holistically, with VBT, with the shred mills, and how we incorporate shred mills on our squat day. When we front squat is when we use our shred mills, and our Tuesday, Thursday speed training. Our speed has been higher as a school average for male and female, not just the top 25 kids, but as an average of the entire population has been higher than it ever has been. And our growth from our freshman to senior year, each kid on average is getting 2 miles per hour faster out of an entire grouping of athletes. And our male athletes this year, we set mile per hour records in every single grade period, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So those are obviously 4 different studs. So conditioning, I don't know, but are we getting faster, more explosive? Yes.
That falls back to some of Louis' ideas, depending on how long it takes those kids to hit 3 reps at that speed. Well, that's pretty comparable to sprinting if you're doing a flying 10, at least at top speed. So yeah, you're touching that stimulus with the barbell. And if you're in a box and the box is the correct height and everything's right, yes, you theoretically should be seeing increased speeds just because you're practicing it without practicing it.
Right.
Man, we've been going a while and I've got so many questions, but I know your time's valuable. So I'll kind of start bringing this thing around and we'll see where we end up on these last few. But I know you've set quite a bit of nutritional stuff up for your athletes. So how are you able, first of all, I think I've noticed culture helps develop nutrition. So if you build some beasts, the younger guys and girls are asking, how did you get so big? And they start talking about the food. That really seems to help. But getting that started, how were you able to set that up for your athletes and get them putting the food away?
So the food and recovery thing is, again, an educational part of it. And so what we do here is we have Power Locker vending machine. Have you heard of the Power Locker vending machine? Great tool. It's a great fundraising thing. They take care of all of it. We just put the food in there, all the money, they take care of all that stuff. And it gives kids opportunities, and you can plug and play with what you want in there based on the nutritional standards, but it gives them options. I mean, the other part is I use resources. I'm not a registered dietitian or any of that type of stuff. So I use the resources that I have. And so we had a registered dietitian from the University of Notre Dame who also coaches cheerleading there. And I did like kind of like this with her for an hour long and asked her a bunch of questions that I had coaches ask me to ask her. She answered them. And then I played that presentation to all of our student athletes. And that was kind of a way to talk about and discuss nutrition. And it's just like anything. You talk about it one time, I get it, but be consistent with it. Remind them of it. Even little things like after class, we get a breakdown. I'll say, make sure you guys go eat something. It's just the littlest stuff. And the Power Locker is a visual representation of that every single day. We have a fridge downstairs here. That's an open window fridge that says recovery station on the top of it. Just another visual reminder of it. And like I said, using the resources that I have to create like that mini presentation and share that, but also too to get dietitians that have an athletic background to help give me information, and then I always send it out to all of our coaches. So we're always pushing it through there. But it's like anything. It's nonstop, and you can't just talk about it one time and tell kids to go eat protein. Same thing too. Like you can't tell kids to go eat, 4,000 calories and expect that they're going to go write that down in a journal. You want to keep it as simple as possible with just some tips and some tricks, but at the same time, just keep it consistent and always have the representative that's always around that you got to feed the beast, and recovery is everything with sleep, hydration, and what you eat.
Do you find it's easier just to get them to start eating and then you can start moving them in certain directions? Just get them to eat first?
100%. That's if a kid ever asks me for help, and again, I'm not a registered dietitian. I get that. First thing I do is write everything you down for 1 week. Just write it down. Don't lie. If you eat Oreos for breakfast, write down Oreos for breakfast. Just write it down so we can sit there and talk about it. And so then they do that, and then from there, it's very simple. Okay, you had a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast, and you ate that consistently. Great. What's your protein? Well, okay. Can you eat peanut butter? Or you have I can eat peanut. Okay, put peanut butter in there. Do you have protein powder? Maybe try that. Can you drink milk instead of water in the oatmeal? Put milk in there. There you go. Or I had 2 eggs. Well, it looks like your mom or dad or whatever. You can make 2 eggs that's pretty easy. Can you go 4 eggs? So based on their habits and their routine, can you double up the good stuff? And then can you just talk and educate that, listen, and kids are not idiots either. They know the difference between a Coke and a bottle of water, right? Or a high C orange from McDonald's and whatever. So do you think Oreos for breakfast is probably the best idea? And just keeping it simple like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you ate something. We'll start
Correct.
there. Now maybe
Correct.
we can adjust it a little bit.
And the biggest thing too, especially with athletes nowadays with how much they travel, what are some healthy options that they can throw in their backpack on their way to school that they'll have all day long, or throw in their backpack during a travel tournament or a road trip competition, or whatever the case is, to make it as simple as possible.
Now we'll kind of bring this around to something you'd mentioned in there earlier, and we'll maybe make this the last question, but I'd had it noted. So you said hanging up on going into your locker room, I believe it's how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, when you exit the weight room. Yep.
When you exit the weight room. So obviously, as we get a little older, we kind of think maybe a little bit more about that than an 18-year-old kid. We've only got so many summers left. When this is all said and done and you walk out of the weight room for the last time, how do you want to be remembered?
That I always put the kids first. That whatever decision was made, whether it was with a coach or design or bringing something in or accountability or expectations or whatever it was, everything was always about the student athlete. And that's it. That's whatever. That's what it's all about. That's why we're in this business. It's not about egos. It's not about awards. It's not about money. Obviously, you got to support your family. People that say it's not a job, it is a job, right? You have to do those things. But it's never about making my life easier. It's what can I do to help athletes, and if that means provide them with the tools, provide them with the workout, provide them with the atmosphere, provide them with the environment, provide them with hard instruction or funny instruction, whatever the case is, that when I'm done and when I left, that it was all about making the athletes in this place better. And that's it. And don't need my name on nothing. Don't whatever. Then the next guy or girl that comes in takes it and makes it better than ever I did, because that's the pride that I have in the school, Penn, that when I'm done, that I want the place to be even better with the next person. And that's all that matters.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you working with me through a little mess up, a little hiccup there at the beginning. I think it was really good. I think what we captured here was even better than maybe what I missed. So thank you so much for your time.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. This was outstanding.
All right, Coach. Well, I'll let you enjoy your evening, and I'll catch up with you hopefully at NatCon.
All right. Awesome. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you.